made a very compelling argument. Why censor Joe Rogan while WAP is on Spotify? People are like, what's the whole point of it?
It's not a clean version.
No,
you actually have access to both. You have the clean version, and then
if it's
Are we good to go? All right.
Why did you sleep and miss our 8 o'clock? Why?
Hello guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Self-Taught Novice with myself. That's your mate, Max Odakwa and Silas Bimbo. Let's just ignore the first part of the starting of this podcast. Anyway,
so we'll do that. It will come up later.
We in the last episode, Maxwell couldn't join us because of some technical issues at his end. Luckily, since he comes.
Last episode.
Yeah, on the last episode, you couldn't join us. You forgot
the last posted episode, or there's another episode I don't know about.
They don't need to know.
Oh yes.
They don't need to know whether it's posted or not. But
okay.
Yeah.
Friday.
You forgot.
Friday.
Why you talk Friday?
I talking about yesterday.
The last episode. That's all there is to it.
The last episode. That's all there is.
I've just missed one recording. Or
yes, that's the last episode with Douglas. You are not here.
Yes.
Okay. That's a shame.
It's not that you had forgotten that you had missed it, or you thought we didn't record at all.
That means I missed two. That means I missed two because you remember the one you and Obin went just two. Remember?
Yeah. You don't travel.
I was confused. Yeah, I was confused.
Yes.
All right. So I missed. Big deal. Whatever.
When finishes, you should say, the death of the podcast to be on me. Hey, you see live.
Oh,
people.
No, relax.
Like
I'm the one behind.
Guardians have what short-term memory.
Short-term memory.
This is too.
No, listeners, I need you guys to back me on this one. All the times I've bailed out, I've given very good reasons, and I don't know whether you guys know this. The technical director for this podcast, or the guy pushing all the knobs, is Obin, right? So without him, the recordings can't really happen. He slept on the job. He slept past the time we record, and I want you guys to know that. So yeah.
I was sleeping away.
You guys really doing this?
Tell us. We will wash our dirty lining today in public.
I was slaving away, getting things done. You see, was it? I wish president said it's not easy to be president. Was it Akufo-Addo or Mahama? Anyway,
it was Mahama.
It's not easy. It's not easy to be the technical person. I need to make sure everything behind the scenes is perfect and seamless, so that you, the listeners, will not suffer any inconveniences, and my co-hosts will also.
You see the way you are not really flowing, because you know, like you are building up excuse.
His argument is perforated with guilt.
No, you see,
guilt all over.
Guilt is written all over everything I say.
As a man of God, I can't lie.
What? Are you pulling this card?
I'm a man of God.
Yes, I'm partially a man of God. Sometimes I need to pull that card. Yes. Anyway, all right.
We thank God for your life.
Amen. But then I'm a man of God just for for the last 10 minutes, or for the last 15 minutes that I've been recording. I'm a man of God, but then we wouldn't refer to me.
I thought you were finally deciding to answer the call. But anyway,
no, not yet. Not yet. God, yeah, he keeps calling. Anyway, so
you probably have to work on that in post.
Don't worry about that.
That's a very interesting statement to make. God keeps calling.
Yeah.
God keeps calling. I mean, he's a patient father. He's
Right.
loving. Yes, and
you are the child who's in the business of wasting his time, aren't you?
no, not really. No, the prodigal son, he finally killed his father. So
Right.
if the prodigal son, if the father of the prodigal son would do that, how about God? You see, you do not give your children what snakes. It's okay. Anyway,
The hell?
so let's forget about that. Salas, I think your mic is went to sleep and is waking up again.
I said Uncle Diego.
Oh, I said what? Alright, so we previously spoke about iOS versus Android, and we looked at topics around reasons people use either of them, and also we looked around things like security, their widgets, and all that. And I think
But that's not what we previously spoke about.
that was the continuation of the discussion. The one you weren't here with Douglas.
What I missed out on.
Yeah, with Douglas.
That's a shame. I had so much to say about that topic.
Yeah, we realized Douglas. Silas was saying that we should. What's the name? We should record on another day. But then looking at how our recording schedules were becoming some way, I was like, let's just continue for that one. Maybe in future, I'm sure definitely in future we'll have a similar topic that you can weigh in on.
Obey is always throwing me under the bus when he gets us. I'm sure it's because you've been reading that essentialism nonsense book. You don't have time for anybody.
No, not that. The main goal is to make sure the podcast is published
right
when it's supposed to be
screw
published.
My feelings, right? Screw what happens to Maxwell. I'm just what? I'm an expendable asset. That's fine. I'll keep that in mind. All right.
Hey, Maxwell, where did you sleep today?
Yeah. Today, I've been about all over the place. I think you let's go ahead. Yeah, I have a lot to say. I'll go ambush you at some point to the podcast.
All right, so we spoke on that. So basically, so Maxwell, in this podcast, what are we talking about?
Today, we're talking about Joe Rogan and the fact that he's been in hot waters with respect to Spotify. I'm sure we all know that he inked a recent 100 million podcasting deal, which probably is the biggest in the podcasting world. And he's been receiving a lot of heat from a section of Spotify employees who say that they are demanding, and I read an article that describes them as woke, in air quotes, woke Spotify employees who are demanding for editorial oversight with regards to his podcast. We all know Joe Rogan as a character tends to be a bit polarizing. I mean, he speaks to almost every party. And yeah, it does happen that he draws a bit of controversy.
Joe Rogan is objective. There's a difference between he being polarizing or speaks to not having a stand as compared to he being objective. Because his platform is public, he tries to give both sides an opportunity to as it may air their opinions on certain issues without really taking sides during the discussion. But there are some things like, let's say, hunting and fighting where he strongly has an opinion on, but then generally he tries not to really take sides.
The reason why I was talking about he speaks both sides is the way per the article are describing the group who are threatening to strike as woke. We know we sort of the term woke is usually associated with liberal ideals, like which is left-wing sort of ideals, so as against conservative ideals. So that's why I was trying to make that point today. But I still agree with you, though, because you realize that he's he caters to almost every audience, and that probably is why his podcast is so big. So yeah, that's the news, and we'll probably have to talk about that. Then we'll segue into free speech and how audio on demand, like podcast, it probably is coming under this whole, what's the word? Cultural storm of woke cultural storm, and how it's going to, shape free speech. So that's basically what we're talking about today. Yeah.
Why is Salah smiling like that?
Good question.
Salah, stop me.
Salah, why are you smiling?
It has nothing to do with what is happening. So don't worry.
Hey.
Are you present? Are you present in today's recording? Are you here?
Oh yeah. Definitely I am. I heard all the submissions you guys made. Yeah.
So yeah, Joe Rogan being cancelled. We never thought we'd hear that, did we?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he actually came out to apologize though. So he made a couple of tweets about the episode that sort of sparked the entire conversation. Right? I don't know if you'd censor whatever I was saying. So he basically said, I F the F word up on the podcast with Douglas Murray and said that people got arrested lighting fires in Portland. That turns out to not be true. I was very responsible not looking into it before I repeated it. I read one story about a guy getting arrested for lighting fires and all that. So then he just repeated again. I repeated without looking into it. And it was and then he used the F word again. And then he used the F word again, and then he said it was a stupid mistake, and then it won't happen again, and that he is sorry.
But then the call for the censorship started way before this. It started during the discussions concerning Spotify signing a deal or inking a deal with Joe Rogan. But then it amplified when Spotify inked the deal, because a lot of these woke people, quote and unquote woke people, didn't agree with a lot of things Joe Rogan stands for, because he's not vegan, he's pro hunting, he's literally everything.
He's a regular person, basically. He's a regular person.
Exactly, he's a regular person, but the average liberal, millennial, Gen Z, who doesn't want to offend anyone kind of person would disagree with everything Joe Rogan stands for. And
but then I think the reason why this call fire is because you have now joined Spotify. So now, I mean, right now anything he says or do publicly sort of represents Spotify's opinion or something, which isn't entirely true, because the podcast is his, and then any content he comes up with, there should be some sort of disclaimer.
No, the deal is
talk about
the distribution deal. They don't really have oversight over the editorials. It's like Bezos owns the Washington Post, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, Bezos cannot dictate to the Washington Post what they should cover and what they shouldn't, because that's not part of the whole. It dilutes the platform.
Yeah, in a perfect world, Bezos can't. But we know for sure that Bezos is a very big donor to the Democrat Party and the left. That's how come in some cases Washington Post tends to put out disparaging content against the Trump administration, and they tend to have typically leftist content. If you study it out, New York Post, Washington Post, CNN, basically the fake news, Washington Post is part of that. Yeah, and it's because the owner has a democratic leaning. So yeah, in a perfect world, what you're saying is true, but we all know that the tech world isn't so conservative, so to speak. Besides Larry Ellison, who is a very open supporter of Trump, there is no Silicon Valley, although Spotify is not from Silicon Valley, but talking about a big tech giant. Or you don't get my point?
Well, I get your point, but then what I'm trying to say is that even in a perfect world, whether or not it doesn't exist, publicly, Bezos isn't supposed to control what Washington Post covers or doesn't cover. You get it?
Perfect world, but the world
Yeah.
isn't perfect. Have you
The
seen
world isn't
Bloomberg?
perfect.
Bloomberg News. Have you seen Bloomberg Agency? What they do?
Exactly. No, but Michael Bloomberg founded Bloomberg. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's
Still a media company. Still a media company.
But the difference is that the origination doesn't happen as an independent platform.
So what
That was
they
bought out by a
embody
rich
Michael
person.
Bloomberg's ideal.
Washington Post existed way before Bezos. Bezos just
100,
bought
I think more than 100 years or so.
Exactly. He just bought into a company. A company has its own values that it lives by. But then Bloomberg
In a perfect
founded,
world. In a perfect world.
Yeah, in a perfect
The world
world.
isn't perfect.
Yes.
But
Bloomberg
you understand
it.
that perfect world is also relative to whoever is describing it. Is a very relative term.
That's true.
Because your definition of perfect might not suit my definition of perfect. So
classic example is family and friends government thing that's going on in Ghana. People can make a competence argument out of it, while some people can also say it's outright nepotism. So yeah, I get you.
Perfection in itself is, in my opinion, is somehow flawed, because it depends on who is describing it, and then the party that supports it. So right now, if I should state my opinion on the matter, I might say as a matter of fact, and then for some people it might seem
Are we good to go?
But then for others too, it might not be exactly that.
Yeah, we are.
As some of the controversial to be said becomes an issue. Should we start recording?
Wait, I think you should check. It was just on and off now.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. I was checking whether the previous recording was fine. You said you hear an unusual echo.
Yeah.
Even
right now, I still hear it.
But does my voice sound okay?
It does. If you can work on it in post, that's fine. But it looks like there's a bit of it. It doesn't sound as tight like previous episodes.
Okay. I think I'll work on it in post anyway.
So can I continue?
So what I was saying is that the Bloomberg founded Bloomberg. So
he's taking us back.
Ideals of the company.
He's taking us back, but he no go listen. Hey, dog, Silas, you were talking, yes.
Silas finished his submission.
No, I was actually continue. I was about to continue. That's why I was saying, can I continue?
Okay.
Yeah.
So about the time I say about perfection, so it's like, and I feel like one party would have to lose for the other to gain. And given the scenario, I don't think Spotify would want to bend for Joe Rogan to gain. But then it's interesting to note that when news of the acquisition came, so like exclusive content rights to Joe Rogan's podcast, the stock price of Spotify like increased around that time.
Yeah.
So you could obviously say Spotify made is making good money from.
How exactly does the partnership work? Because Google Podcast has Joe Rogan.
For how long? The deal hasn't started.
They had a new episode.
And the deal hasn't started.
Okay, I don't know. I
think that started, and ever since it was announced, I've always been getting GRE episodes on what's the name? On
Google Podcast.
And right now I'm using Castbox too. The new episodes have been the Bridget Fetsy episode.
Yeah. That lady was high in the studio. I have a feeling she was high.
Almost half of his guests are high. Some are just not brave to do it on camera. But then from the conversations you realize that so not to get sidetracked. So you see that these episodes are new, but then they are public. So how then does the deal work?
Yeah,
probably have to look into
the
that.
deal works also with the video. I'm told they also migrate video to podcast. But anyway, let's find out. Yeah, but a lot of people really came out, lashed out against the deal because they felt Joe Rogan should not sort of sell out, so to speak.
Yeah, he sold out actually.
I mean, well, I'm sure you're one of those people who had your reservations about this move. But then it's all about money.
No. I mean that's what
He
has
just clocked
caused.
the 14.
That's what has caused. That's what has caused all this. That's what has caused all this. Because if he hadn't,
but then looking into like the meat of the matter, so to speak, you'd realize that the concerns of the woke people, although is very valid because he made some very false claims which he later debunked himself. You'd see that they are just using it as an opportunity to sort of stifle a certain aspect of Joe Rogan experience and this is very typical of woke crowds that they tend to, in their pursuit for very liberal ideals, they tend not to mind if they step on certain tools. And that's been my issue about people who have, of course, we're not going to make it a cult podcast or cultural discussion, but I'm sure you know cases of people who are woke and they don't mind oppressing people. Although they shout oppression, but they don't mind oppressing people just so that they make their point. And that has always been the issue. How come conservatives have have been very hesitant when it comes to even listening to what people say? Classic example is the case of pro-life. If you've studied it, it's a very polarizing topic, and a lot of people have so many different ideas about it. Where, I mean, there's the quarters of those who are pro-feminist or feminists who think no one should decide for the woman. Then there are also those who think that it's not about deciding for the woman. It's about that. I mean, there's a child at stake and all that. But then it's a very nuanced conversation. Anyway, did I just go off? Because no one's responding to what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, like you in the flow there. So like I really like the flow, and then the submission you make. That's why I kept quiet. I don't know about being though.
And for me, I'm reading the deal concerning Spotify. So apparently, it's saying that in a statement, Spotify described the agreement as a multi-year exclusive licensing deal that will make the podcast free for all the platform's 286 million users. Mr. Rogan said clips of the show would still be available on YouTube, where the show currently streams and attracts millions of weekly views. But later in the year, full episodes will stream exclusively on Spotify.
Yeah.
So that's so that means by December.
They're a bit silent on the actual days, the actual timelines. They're a bit silent. Multi-year.
Yeah, multi-year. We do not first they were silent on the amount of money until it leaked. Now they are silent on the number of years. But then
someone made a very compelling argument. Why censor Joe Rogan while WAP is on Spotify? People are like, what's the whole point of it?
Not the clean version. Or is it?
No, you actually have access to both. You have the clean version and then the
it's about I mean, explicit or misinforming or let's say damaging content.
But then WAP is not misinforming.
If it's about that, then the editorial oversight argument goes beyond just inaccuracies. It goes beyond censoring the actual words.
Because
giving him bleeps and all kinds of stuff.
But that actually hinders the whole ideology behind free speech, in my opinion.
Well, that's true.
Their platform, you are on it, you do like.
No, but Rogan.
I think Joe Rogan has been demonetized, hasn't he? On YouTube.
Spotify. Oh, on YouTube.
I doubt I've watched any.
Because he uses a lot of swear words.
I doubt I've watched any ads on his podcast.
Yeah.
I doubt I've watched any ads on this podcast because he doesn't also need the money because if you listen to the episodes on or in audio form only, you realize that it starts with about 10 to 15 minutes of adverts before he actually goes into the episode. So I mean, he's being paid very well from his podcast.
Yeah, he doesn't need a clicking. He needs actual, partnerships.
Exactly.
But I feel like he has positioned his podcast to the extent where like his podcast has actually become sort of, should I say, politically important. Where given the day and age we're in, like given his platform, he can basically say anything to distract voters to either vote for a particular party or another party. So
did you even hear
it sort of
calls
makes
about
sense.
him? Did you hear calls for him to debate, to moderate to the debate between Joe Biden and Trump? Did you hear?
Yeah,
a lot of people were saying that
hear
he's the perfect guy for it.
But
I'm sure it was
I doubt he is.
Aside the podcast, he has hosted a couple of shows like Fear Factor.
But then
eating cockroaches and stuff
all those
like that.
those things are different from a political debate. Let's be honest.
But he has also been having political discussions.
Joe Biden actually had a one-on-one session with Cardi B. And you can't tell me that.
But then you saw the backlash.
Joe Rogan is a step below.
No. You saw the backlash. You saw the backlash from the conversation he had with Cardi B. And let's be honest, that conversation wasn't. It was really about clout.
It was pointless.
It was pointless, exactly. If we listen to the conversation exactly, you realize that there was no point of having that conversation. No.
Like she wants her taxes reduced. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is actually for higher taxes. This girl is politically illiterate. Like she's not. It was hard to watch.
But then someone like, for example, I'll be comfortable if someone who is a news anchor moderates such a conversation as compared to someone like Joe Rogan. If Joe Rogan is, let's say, interviewing
Chris Wallace, who moderate one of the debates from Fox News or something.
I don't know the names of their.
But the reason why I feel like Joe Rogan should be should be the one to handle is because of the kind of questions he asks. And I mean, given that in those usual scenarios, you want conversations on the economy, your plans on health and all that. You also want to know the psyche of the presidential candidates. And I feel like Joe Rogan would be the best person to like sort of ask those questions to like see, are you pro-life?
Push their buttons.
Push their buttons to actually get them thinking. Because I feel like
Biden will forget half of the questions though.
I feel like these political debates, like their questions are like Pasco, should I say? You just need to know the questions that will come. Oh, what do you plan on doing within the 4 years? Oh, you plan to increase decrease unemployment and all that. I mean, everyone hears that, but when you actually get to power, there are certain things that happen within the society that influences your decision on governance. And I feel like Joe Rogan would be the best person to actually exploit that as compared to other people.
That's true. But then my fear also is that he is not researched enough. In the sense that,
are you sure?
When it comes to politics,
the guy reads. Okay, well, when it comes to politics, but if you did watch his episode with Ben Shapiro, you see that he puts in a lot of work not to sound like he's dumb. Because Ben Shapiro
but then there's a difference between sounding like an expert and sounding like a layman and sounding like you are dumb. There are three different layers to that.
I feel
a political debate. You need to sound like an expert. You need to be at the.
I get that.
You need to have the numbers. You need to have the figures. You need to be able to counter attack when an aspirant is trying to lay a false claim. You shouldn't just let it slide. See, so I am everywhere's issue with Kojo.
What do you see? I am everywhere.
I get your point, but I feel that given the current climate and reception towards the general conventional media in America, a lot of people don't even give two hoots about CNN, Fox News and stuff. They need that person who comes across as not really, part of this commercial media group who just follow an agenda. And besides, Joe Rogan could be one of the many debate moderators. This is a case I'm making.
He's
like
that he's
experts know what have they done for anybody. Every day you put experts on the spot to ask questions. What have they done? Then these politicians and just rattle Pascal, and the country is still bloody sane. Dude, experts have done nothing.
Like for me, I'll be more comfortable if someone like Kojo Yankson moderates a presidential debate as compared to someone like Abeku Santana.
Someone like Bryce Simmons.
No,
they're not gonna try it. They'll no
attempt that. Yeah, no one attempt that. But then I'm comparing Kojo Yankson to Abeku Santana concerning a presidential debate. Even though Abeku Santana is older.
I want to push some buttons. Why not Bryce Simmons?
I mean, you already know they have Imani
you eat
has
them
a
for
lot
lunch. You end up debating with them.
Exactly. We all know that both political parties are really afraid of Bryce Simmons and Franklin Kujo of Imani because of the fact that they seem to be no-nonsense people, and also they are the top of, exactly, they are the top of their game when it comes to the facts and the true issues on the ground. And I doubt any government in Ghana will be willing to put themselves on the spot like that.
Risk it.
Exactly. Isn't that what we need? Based on the argument you were making, is that what we need?
Politics is an illusion of choice.
To moderate. We need a Captain Polo to.
Within the context of moderation, not other, like, I mean, like, you can make other arguments, but within the context.
We need delay to moderate an interview. Delay. So they will move a commercial break with a mackerel.
They end up working off. I do know her 30-minute show, about 10 to 15 minutes is all her product.
Delay, Renampa. Charlie.
I saw your show. She has a business to run. So Charlie.
The show is all part. It's like she has created a whole ecosystem for herself. She causes controversy. She uses the controversy to market her product for free.
Yeah. And she's one of the few people who actually take LinkedIn serious. She and Kofi Kenyatta.
Yeah, it's true. I saw, Kofi Kenyatta takes it seriously.
Which is surprising.
Okay. So, like I always say, I try to play devil's advocate on the podcast.
Yeah. So,
according to an article from slate.com, the reason why they feel like everyone should listen to the Joe Rogan experience is because it follows, and I'm reading, it follows a deceptively simple formula. Rogan puts his guests at ease, often by offering them drugs and alcohol, affects a non-combative demeanor, and then keeps them talking for hours until they inevitably say something provocative or unguarded. And those are the keywords I'm actually taking out of this podcast.
Yeah.
For any presidential candidate, I feel like that is where they'll be most vulnerable, where they are provocative and then unguarded, because they are basically hitting them with any possible question.
But Aisha, they'll take drugs and alcohol.
Oh, I mean, for the presidential debates, no. But if you were to give them the Joe Rogan experience, you basically get the raw, unedited, opinion or emotions coming out from them. So I feel like if you're able to sort of simulate that for politicians in particular, the Joe Rogan experience would be the best of actually getting the opinions and the views of politicians. That's why I feel
no filters, nothing. Yeah.
That's why I feel like you'd be the best person to handle. Because an example is the way he got Elon Musk to actually talk for that long. That was I think 2 hours, 30 minutes.
Close to 3 hours.
Yeah.
But that's not as long as podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I don't exactly know Elon Musk to be the talkative type. And then if you realize you can actually go back and watch the Joe Rogan podcast like on YouTube and then watch his presentations on from Tesla to, you could realize that the flow in the podcast was very different from.
It was the weed, my brother. It was the weed.
Yes, so like you basically caught him unaware, unguarded, and was just raw. So like at that moment, you really get to get to like expose the true emotions, and also that should work for politicians. And I feel like that's why
I say that we should give psychedelics to politicians when they are coming to have a national debate.
I mean, I'm not exactly saying that, but if you're able to simulate the environment, that would sort of.
I know politicians are perpetual liars.
Get them to.
They live to lie. They don't blink twice when they are lying.
Yeah, that's true.
So I doubt that might work, because
I'm still waiting till the time he gets Dave Chappelle on the podcast.
Dave Chappelle hasn't come on the podcast. I think they are good friends, so I'll come in. Let me see.
Yeah, but it's interesting that he hasn't, because he has over 1,000 episodes. And
okay, Dave Chappelle has never been on the podcast, but then he has said several things about Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
But it's strange. They are both comedians. They seem to be close in person. So why on earth? And Kevin Hart has been there twice. And
who has been there twice?
Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
But JRE hasn't.
Even Louis Heisenberg from Unbox Therapy has been there like 6 times or 4 times or something.
Oh, yeah, the way they like Louis, the whole.
Of course, Charlie, my man. My man. Has MKBHD been on? Saying.
So I
think he's.
Louis has.
No, he hasn't.
So I say Louis was able to fly from Canada to California to be on JRE, but they couldn't send him a Samsung phone because he's in Canada. What do you mean? It's all about strategic partnership.
It's not like it's in Africa. It's not like it's in Africa.
Yeah,
Canada. Canada is basically not America. That's it.
Hey, you get lost.
And then you see, example is the Raptors.
Rogan experience. He talked about when Gal Gadot blocked him because of a tweet.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't understand why she did that.
Tech Twitter police.
Yeah.
Was it wrong for MKBHD to have done that?
He just pointed out the fact that she was clearly doing the money for the money. Anyway, yeah. So now away from that, but still on the same theme: free speech, the role of big tech. Is my platform. I have the right to censor you. Woke culture, this whole storm taking over. Should we stop it? Are they overstepping their boundaries? What do you guys think?
For me,
this is a very delicate topic. You don't want to be cancelled.
It's a very delicate topic, but then I believe
the fact that we fear cancellation means is a problem.
It's actually it's a problem, but the good thing is that cancellation has become so below the belt that now we wonder, is this thing worth cancelling? Because now you say something now that may not seem offensive, but fast forward 10 years later, when people deem it offensive, then they start canceling you, saying that, oh, this person doesn't respect the life. For example, take Kevin Hart's issue. Some years back, it was okay to, in comedy, to make fun of people who were not seen as normal or regular members of society, people who aren't going with the norm of society, i.e. the LGBT group. It was
and I'm not got him cancelled from hosting the Oscars.
Exactly. Exactly. It was okay. Even till today, it's even a little okay to poke fun as such.
Dave Chappelle doesn't care, that's for sure.
No, Dave Chappelle doesn't care because you cannot cancel Dave Chappelle. Like,
did you see his acceptance speech for his Emmys? He's like, they should shut the F up. Did you see it? I think you should play it. I think you should play it. It's the acceptance speech for the Emmys.
I hope there's
Funny
no
as hell.
swear words.
Oh, it's Dave Chappelle we are talking about. Of course there is. Acceptance speech for the Emmys.
Before I start, I'm sorry. Okay, I think that it's so let's watch it.
Boy, comes as a complete surprise.
I don't care.
I mean, I read all the reviews and they said so many terrible things. They were embarrassed for me. I had lost my way. It wasn't even worth watching. I hope all you critics learn from this. This is a teachable moment. Shut the up forever. Two in a night. These aren't them. These are the ones I want for the other ones. I would like to thank my editor who was nominated. Unfortunately, he did not win, but I couldn't have been more honored to work with Jeff Urin. Stan Lathan has been directing television since 1968. Any show that I watched when I was growing up.
For me, it goes back to what I've been saying all this while, that life is really about opinions and how you stick to what you believe in. Even consistency, because Dave Chappelle is a typical example of consistency. Pastors, men of God, they are also a typical example of consistency. Let's take a typical example in Ghana, Mensa Otabel. How many times did people speak against him concerning certain things he said or certain things his church did? But the church still does that because their fundamental belief is rooted in those decisions. You understand? And a lot of people respect him for that. Obinim, a lot of people respect him for that. A lot of
You did not say that on this podcast.
I know. I mean,
our crowd. No.
If you understand,
the hell.
Even though we disagree on a lot of things he does, people still respect and go to his church just because they seem to resonate with those beliefs. Like, for example,
what do you expect? He's pulling visas from shoes. You go. You definitely go.
Like, for example, Maxwell, you know that there are certain things I will do and I won't do just because those are the things I believe in and those are the things I stand for, and I wouldn't want to change that. In the same way, Dave Chappelle believes strongly in certain things and knows that right now cancellation is so weak that a lot of people are mentally weak, that in the slightest thing offends them. And they do not want to be offended. They want to live in an offend-free world. But then we live in an imperfect world where different opinions run the game. And the one who wins or the one who's most popular is the one who can convince a lot more people to follow in their life. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are correct, but it just means that what they are saying resonates with a lot more people, which causes them to get the crowd or the following.
And I feel like as a society we try to preach the message of progressiveness and then freedom, but we tend to forget that those two keywords actually lie in exercising your choice.
Exactly.
True.
People are a progressive society. We should allow people to exercise their choice. That is, exercise your voting rights, whether you're left, right, center, black, white, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you should basically exercise it and not try to basically say that because someone doesn't agree with my opinion, I'm basically canceling the person, which is very wrong.
Classic case. I know people don't want to say this. Woke crowds beating up Trump supporters in the US. Can you imagine?
Like
that's fundamentally wrong.
That's very
wrong.
For me, I believe
what you stand for. Oh,
I believe what you should stick to.
It's very paradoxical if you ask me.
Yeah.
Actually, it is. and you should be very respectful. For me, when you're exercising your opinions, you should try as much as possible to be very respectful. Like for example, let's take a typical example. I want to I commented on something some time back on Twitter. I barely reply things on Twitter, so I'm sure I might see it.
Wow.
And I made a mistake, and
I think Twitter is a very good virtual example of this whole woke culture and cancel culture.
So I think I've deactivated my account. It's been a while I was there.
Hey, Maxwell, are you sure you're fine?
Yeah.
Or because you seem to be vanishing from the internet gradually.
But I'm still here, so that's what matters. But Twitter is a
guy randomly said, like, I think I made a spelling mistake in the tweet, and the guy randomly said something foolish. I mean, something inherently foolish. And I just instead of starting a fight or being sarcastic, I just laughed and said, "Okay, thank you for the correction." You understand? And for me, that ended the thread. He couldn't reply because people try as much as possible to they think the louder they are.
Currency on Twitter is when you are mean. It's basically the only currency they understand. When you are mean, when you are saying all kinds of weird. Oh, God.
But I realized that the very influential people on Twitter are people who stand for something besides being foolish or mean. That's one thing. That's one thing we forget. Because
I mean, that's a good way of classifying it.
Yes,
you sure?
Yes.
Are you really sure?
Well, amongst
the lines are blurred when you're talking about Ghanaian influences.
No, like someone like
I don't want to drop any names, but I could give you like a ton of examples of people who have made a name from comedy, insults, and all kinds of stuff on Twitter. Very pointless content.
No, but that's true. There are those people there. But then for me, for you, for the three of us, and hopefully for the listeners, because they resonate with what we discuss, we like that those people do not really have much influence in our thinking, just because of the points they make, or just because of how they carry out their messages. Let me give you a typical example. Let's take someone who is very controversial, like DK.
YouTube hustler.
I just don't want to use this name. But let's take someone like DKB. Not to throw shade at DKB. I listened to some of his skits. I watched some.
He's not funny though.
He's okay. He's
funny. Funny is relative.
Funny is relative. I find him amusing.
Which is basically you trying to paper over the cracks that his comedy sucks. That's basically what we are all trying to see. His comedy sucks. He's not funny.
Being hasn't stated it, and I feel like you should put words into this.
Exactly.
All right.
So someone like DKB. Not if DKB talks about a serious issue, I would never take it seriously as compared to someone like KSM. Or someone like Obi Aponsa.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, you make a very good point.
They all fall within the same industry of comedy. But then looking at what they all stand for and looking at their approach with respect to how they command influence from certain groups of people, you'd realize that they don't really resonate. DKB doesn't really resonate with me, and I wouldn't take him seriously. I remember... Okay.
Classic example, Conan and Kimbach.
As in Conan O'Brien.
Conan O'Brien and Kimbach. We obviously take Conan O'Brien a bit more serious than we will take Kimbach.
No. Conan and Kimbach are two different people. I mean, Conan is...
Kevin Hart and Conan. How about that?
No. Let's...
Yeah, Bringing Kevin Hart actually makes it difficult for me because
Kevin Hart is not known for being politically inclined.
No, but then
yeah,
when you listen
not
Or
to
talking
exactly
about the
stand-up,
serious
politically,
stuff of society.
but he
when you listen
definitely
to his
has.
stand-up, there's some spice and there's some essence.
What?
What he says.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely he doesn't really have a political agenda, but
No.
I mean, when he has an opinion about something, I feel like
It doesn't go as far as. Did you see Dave Chappelle's 840 something, that thing about George Floyd? You saw how it amassed a lot
yeah,
of
yeah, I saw that.
Kevin
I saw
Hart,
that.
who would listen to him if he went out and he ranted? Not as many people as they would listen to Dave Chappelle. And that goes back to what Payne said. What has been the consistency in your ideologies or what you put out about yourself? If you've been inconsistent or you just go with the wind, a lot of people won't take you that seriously. You understand? So yeah. Case in KSM, for example, you know he's a comedian, but he speaks to a certain extent seriously, or he's very opinionated in a relevant fashion as against cloud chasing comedians like DKB. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's very true.
Or let's say even in Ghana, let's compare two musicians. Let's say
I don't know why I feel like I have an example in mind that Obin's about to mention.
Obedi and Shatawale, say it.
Oh, not that info. I was about to say.
Wendy Shea.
Oh no! I was about to say Sarkozy Manifest.
Oh no, that one. The lines are a little blurred. A little.
I mean, they are a little blurred, but I can actually pull up. I can pull up tweets and then try and then can check people's reaction to, like, should I say, when like Sarkozy is trying to pass some messages, like you.
When he's trying to speak sense, which is
as compared to as compared to the reaction to Manifest tweets. So,
I think it's best to use Manifest as compared to Shatawale.
It's not fair, is it?
That's not fair.
It's not very fair comparison.
No,
they don't make the same genre of music, so I feel like
they are all musicians.
By comparison,
they are all musicians. They all command.
Yeah, that's fair.
They all command their industry. So you realize that if you listen to Shatawale's talking points around governance and around politics, you realize that it's not as sound as compared to some statements Manifest makes. Not because he's not wise, but just because he's not really informed about that industry. But when Shatawale is talking about music, you realize that he really, really understands what he's saying.
Yes. Yeah, true. I mean, you can make the case that it goes as far as seeing collaborations between Manifest and then Impact Hub.
Exactly.
Doing some
or even Trigmatic. Trigmatic
yeah,
too.
Trigmatic too. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I mean that's
or even people like Ochame Kwame, for example.
I still do not see. I don't know, honestly.
No.
I've heard from him in a long time though.
He's around.
No.
Does he really? Is it more of an image or?
Yeah,
I hear him talk.
I
was about to talk about stands for. Still going back to the image thing. For example, even with ambassadorial deals, if we are supposed to speak truth to facts, did I say truth to facts? We're supposed to speak truth. It will make much more sense to use someone like Chame Kwame for a made in Ghana ambassadorial deal because he's been consistent. Yes, because he's been consistent in his image in that respect.
It's more like a Beyonce.
No, good.
Beyonce only speaks through her music. You barely hear her.
Yeah.
Outside, so you don't. So for me, it's dicey. You're not really able.
Okay.
That's also another thing. When you become very popular, a lot of people tend to find meaning.
Assume.
For this
Yeah.
podcast like this, from this discussion we are having, a fourth person listening to it can have a different perspective about the issue, and even maybe find offense with so many things that we've said on this podcast, just by virtue of the fact that we may be disagreeing with certain things they stand for. But one thing I mentioned,
Progressives.
One thing I mentioned is that
liberal.
this world is run by opinions, and that's why Peter can post that a cow is not food, but someone will post a beef steak by the picture and just laugh it off. Someone who believes in what Peter does will say this is so offensive, but in actual sense, it's not, because everyone has their right.
It's offensive to your senses.
Exactly, everyone has their right to believe in whatever they want to believe in. Like for example, me like this. One thing is that God willing, when I get more money, I'll go full vegan, not because I like animals, but just because I want to live a healthy life. And one thing I've realized is that you know a canker sore, right? When you do not eat properly and you lack nutrients, you end up getting some tiny sores in your mouth that really hurts, and they leave after a week. And when you get back on your nutrition, you realize that they leave quickly. And for me, I'm prone to that because of my eating habits over a long period of time. Because sometimes I tend to eat like junk in a week and all that. So because in future I really want to be at the top of my diet game, I'd rather want to eat a lot of plant-based food as compared to animal-based.
I mean, we don't care about you. Check out the video I put in the Slack group and play it.
Anyway.
Talking about vegans, I saw a very interesting video. You probably find it amusing.
Okay, let's watch it.
Vegan or eating steak.
Doesn't look vegan, and I'm trying to be vegan.
You're a vegan?
It's really hard because I don't have a culture from Wisconsin.
Okay.
And cheese was like one of my favorite things.
See, that looks pretty good. That's a little rare, medium rare.
Yeah.
Is
got
this
some nice dead cow hanging on your fork?
Is this bad that I'm eating meat?
If you go hunting, that's a totally different story, right? The blood's on your hands. Right now, you're kind of just enjoying the benefit, and the blood's on someone else's hands, and that's not very fair.
What if they want to hunt meat, or what if they want to raise cattle?
Oh, totally. But the idea of killing and taking a life, that we should really deeply consider what that means for us as human beings. You know, people have said you should judge a society by how it treats their animals. And it'd be great if we had universal health care for our animals.
Universal health care for animals, that could be expensive.
We can afford it. Look.
Really? Because $20 trillion.
And yes.
Hey, wait, hold up.
Yeah.
Universal
healthcare for
animals.
Have lost their minds.
Human beings don't even have access to good healthcare. Then we'll go think about animals.
Someone said in America it's faster to do an operation on a crocodile than a human being.
That's actually true. It's actually true.
Yeah, they give a lot of attention to their pets.
Yeah.
And then quickly, they just set up an operation or something.
Our YouTube subscribers are 157. What are they subscribing to?
What's happening? But I did watch the podcast on YouTube.
The views are down.
The views are down.
They are down.
Don't worry, one day.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So you saw in that video.
Someone
I was talking about
Conan O'Brien openly roasts people who are vegans. Yeah, and it's for me it's normal. And personally, as I'm saying, I actually admire vegetarians and vegans because of the nutritional benefits they get from a plant-based diet. Not because I really care about animals. I actually do care about animals, but then I believe
you got a fish.
It's a fish daddy, by the way.
But I believe as human beings, we live within an ecosystem where we are superior and we need to feed off of everything that is around us. So by all means, something has to give for us to eat. And that is by getting protein. Protein is also essential for the body. That means some animals need to sacrifice their lives to us for us to live. So it's part of the normal human life. But then trying to disrespect someone because a person doesn't believe that, okay, you shouldn't kill animals, because vegans also kill plants. And the argument, so what if the plant actually wants to live? Even if the plant's lifespan is 1 season, the plant too has a right to live. We should give it universal health care.
Is it making sense to any of you?
No, it's no. I'm trying to give a counter argument to the woman who was saying the video we just
all right,
and the fact that she was saying that like let's say animals, she was trying to insinuate that animals have rights and they should be given universal health care and all, but then you realize that plants also have life, some form of life, and per that argument, they also should be respected more. That means as human beings, we drink water. Water too has some kind of life. It moves through different cycles. So that means as human beings, we shouldn't really exist just because you feel offended about something. Because what you find offense with, someone else may not really, really find offense with. So if you try and live your life as an open-minded person, as my father would say, just have your values, believe in your values, but then live your life in such a way that live your life believing that not everybody believes in the same thing you believe in, but then respect them for who they are. I think that would be the best way to counter all this.
But do you think? Yeah, I mean, nice TED talk. Yeah, I mean, nice TED talk.
So I've been really shared some deep nuggets of wisdom, which I think Maxwell you'd very much appreciate, and then recognize the wisdom he has shared, even though you have been appreciated.
Force down my throat. Don't even ask me whether I keep it or not. Force it down. Anyway, but what do you guys think about free speech and the right to censorship by tech giants, because simply by virtue of the fact that they own the platforms or they built the platforms, because much of basic interaction is taking place on these platforms. So to the extent it's becoming normal routine or normal life. It's basic interaction.
I think it's good. It's good because when you create a platform with 3 people, it's more like a group. But then when you create a platform with over 200 million people, it becomes a society on its own. And every society needs rules and governance to navigate certain complicated issues. So a typical example is Facebook's community guidelines. If these community guidelines are sort of a yardstick to measure whether or not someone needs to be kicked off or suspended. And if these guidelines are not there, everyone says whatever they want to say. Like, for example, in this podcast, you realize
but then who made those guidelines? That's the question. Did they factor inside constitutional liberties? These are the questions.
Does your constitution in Ghana factor in constitutional liberties?
Don't ask me that question.
No,
you ask me that question. You don't want to answer the question I put to you.
No, I'm asking. So it does actually, but then you realize that until you go against the rules, that's when you start finding fault with it. And for me, a typical example is this podcast. You realize that we try as much as possible to be objective about so many things, not because we are
most of us fail sometimes.
Yeah, not because we are trying to censor ourselves or we are afraid of people, but then we are generally just being respectful. That's who we are. You understand?
Yeah.
But imagine if we're a podcast of 100,000 people. You realize that there might be at least some 2 people who are loud but very foolish, who can just cause chaos. And this chaos doesn't make any sense. But then since they are loud, a lot of people tend to follow them. Let's take a typical example. I strongly disagree with Candace Owens and everything she stands for. But then,
is a fact?
it's a it's
a personal fact.
It's a fact. It's a personal fact.
You are crazy. Candace Owens makes some of the most compelling arguments on the planet.
No, it doesn't. What she stands for, Salas.
People think she's a sellout.
You're waking up. Your microphone is now waking up.
Better.
Candace Owens is the top of the food chain, black conservative, and everyone knows that. That's how come people come for her.
If we listen to, like, for example, the George Floyd incident, you watch the video she did immediately. The incident happened. The fact that
she stressed on the fact that he's a criminal and we shouldn't stand for
you shouldn't stand
criminals.
We shouldn't celebrate. No one was celebrating George Floyd. We were all against the police brutality. It happened to be his name that was there. Tomorrow it could be Kwame Atta. The next day it could be Yamansa. No one really worries about the name. They worry about the fact that statistically a lot of black men are being killed in the same manner. And that was the argument. So why then do you come out to pinpoint, or to why do you come out saying that the person is not a hero, we shouldn't celebrate him and all that? You realize that video in less than 1 hour had millions of views, and this thing actually distorts the whole narrative, and it actually fosters hate towards the cause. You get it? So if Facebook hadn't taken that video down, you realize that it was going to twist the narrative and make the whole Black Lives Matter movement, it would have flawed the whole argument concerning Black Lives Matter. So for me, I think she shouldn't have she shouldn't have been given the platform, or she shouldn't have done that. And for me, that's why I'm saying that these platforms have every responsibility to censor content that
you stressed on the fact that these platforms connect people and they give a lot of power to individuals to make or to leave a bigger footprint in terms of their opinions than they typically would have been able to do if they went on such platforms. Hence, with much power comes much responsibility. Yeah. But then I also would counter that by saying that we see that these platforms are replacing a lot of basic communication. So it is imperative that we are careful to not give these administrators of these creators of these platforms too much room to decide how speech takes place on such platform, because at the end of the day, it is going to be as if it is replacing basic communication, and you don't want just a few people to be the gatekeepers or the custodians of speech. It should not be the case. There will be implications, especially when they are always looking at things from a commercial standpoint.
That's the problem.
It's always commercial.
That's the problem I see with respect to these platforms, is that they are not really being objective. They are just looking at more ways to get money flowing through their bank accounts, as compared to an actual society. The Constitution of Ghana,
which is in business.
Exactly. The Constitution of Ghana is mainly there for your well-being and for the society to keep running, not primarily to take a lot of money from advertisers and to get you hooked up onto the platform. And if you watch The Social Dilemma, which is the new Netflix documentary that came out concerning social media, you realize that these algorithms and these guidelines are specifically designed for one purpose and one aim, which is to increase the user's time online and also to assure the advertisers that whatever business transactions they will make with them, they are going to get 100% results, and they are going to achieve whatever goal they want to achieve. And for me, this is wrong. And that's one problem I have with these guidelines. They are inherently designed not for the good of the users, but then for the good of these platforms to make more money at the expense of the safety of their people. For example, a platform like Facebook shouldn't have so many issues if they're really looking at users. Facebook shouldn't.
True.
Why does YouTube not have so much issues as compared to Facebook? YouTube, I'm certain YouTube, even though YouTube may not be as big as Facebook, but then YouTube is huge. But then YouTube doesn't have these problems because they are managing to strike a balance between user safety, community guidelines, and the money that they are making from advertisers. That's why YouTube can easily demonetize a video without thinking twice, just because they feel it's against their community rules. Because YouTube is pro-family, and you realize that even with respect to let's say, you realize that the family not in what am I even saying, videos that are targeted to children. Videos that are targeted to children do not have ads because they feel children do not need to buy anything, and there's no point showing.
They don't make economic decisions.
Exactly, and they had problems where YouTubers whose content was targeted towards children were selling shirts, and children were pressuring their parents.
They got a ban, I think, for that.
Yes.
They got a fine.
They got a fine for that, and realized that people were these children were pressuring their parents to get them things, which is wrong because children are not supposed to be advertised to in a normal society.
Yeah.
So you realize that all these things need to be done, but then it should be done at the good of the users of the platform, not at their expense.
That is true. If you recall, somewhere this year, when Facebook was said to be encouraging extremist activities online, and they were helping propagate, or they were not censoring extremist content or conservative or misinformation, there was an advertiser boycott. It's so much so that big companies that are, key to Facebook's revenue stream threatened, or even in some cases made good on their threat and boycotted. And that forced, that joined calls for Facebook to drop or to censor certain communities. It should tell you that if a platform has so much power and they are always, and is based on a business model, it is easy for the market forces or forces of economics to determine how that platform leverages on its ability to censor. People don't agree. They look at who's on the board. Are those liberals? Then they start pushing agenda from the top. Then it affects community guidelines. That's why I said community guidelines might not be a thorough enough method to ensure that there is sanity, because things are always from the
So what do you
business
think
angle.
community guidelines, what do you think are more tall enough? Moderation?
I feel we should come to that understanding that platforms are basically is the word microcosm, or is basically a form of present day existence. So constitutional mandates should reign supreme. It's free speech sound very practical, but that's the reality, because now Facebook is replacing communication on so many levels, and we can't reverse that. We can't get rid of Facebook, but we should have to make sure that they don't cater to just the requirements of a certain section, which is, let's say, liberal ideals, but everybody, because disinformation has come to stay. Misinformation has come to stay. How do you tackle it? Not by slashing something that does not generally agree with people. I mean, it's very precarious situation. You can't please everybody. That's how I see it.
You can't, but then no, you can't please everybody. But then everything you do is like it's like being a parent. Our parents weren't happy all the time with our parents, but then everything they did it in the best interest of ourselves. That's one thing I believe these platforms should do. Just like a government, a natural government, your people may not be happy. Like for example, I like how the NPP government handled this whole coronavirus. Some decisions we're not really happy with. We're scared, but then they were bold enough to take those decisions. And now, see, Ghana is one of the best responding countries to the pandemic. And now we are all hailing the government because of certain decisions they've made. So you see,
Yeah, people
may not.
didn't die.
You're saying
A lot of people didn't die in the numbers.
exactly as relatively as compared to other countries.
Yeah.
As compared to other countries, so you see that it's actually very important that these platforms shouldn't really be looking at their pockets, but they should rather be looking at how best, or they should look at the best interest of their users. Because right now you realize that we used to hail these tech companies that they are the best,
Yeah.
they are the heroes, but then realize that they're actually the super villains, because now data is the most important currency, and since they own it now, it's for some of them it may be getting to their heads because they want to get more of it and make more money from it. Because I think,
and someone made a statement that don't trust any company that has had an IPO. That company doesn't care about you; it only cares about money, and that's the truth.
yeah, I mean that's the honest truth, because it comes back even to the beginning of this podcast, Joe Rogan's thing. The more you start using someone else's money, the more you start bending over for to do whatever they are.
Say it.
To whatever their demands may be. And that's one thing. That's one thing I like about Elon Musk too. He makes it clear, and that's one thing I also like about Jeff Bezos. When Jeff Bezos opened IPO, he made it clear to his shareholders that this is a long-term decision. Believe in me, you're not going to make money in 1 year. Wall Street is going to make $0 from this in 2 years. We are looking 10 years, we are looking 15 years to make revenue. Amazon didn't turn profit for 10 good years. They generated market share. And that's someone who actually believed in his product and had control over the money people were investing. But then other founders may not have that much control. They may bend to the slightest demands from their investors, especially if your investors are very powerful and influential people who the moment, for example, someone like Warren Buffett, if Warren Buffett is an investor and Warren Buffett is starting to doubt you and he moves out, best believe
He's
everybody
taking
moves.
The whole team with him.
Exactly. Everybody moves with him. And that's when the issue may come.
Free speech, Joe Rogan getting cancelled, woke liberals, vegans are being given us life advice. There's been an interesting podcast.
I'm not giving life advice, so I know nothing.
I think we'll draw the curtain on it for this edition. Obin, what do you see?
Yeah, I think it's enough. Silas had some technical issues, so Silas is down.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he couldn't end with us. But then, either ways, we still had a lot of his submissions and was able to conclude. He wasn't able to conclude, but then we still had him speak and come on board. Anyway.
Okay. So that's clear for this.
So that's basically it for. Yeah, that's it for the Sultan of his podcast. As usual, if you have any questions.
Remember to leave a review on whatever platform you listen to us on. Share to your friends if you have anyone who wants to listen to, and basically, support the movement. I don't think I've said that before, have I? Anyway.
Sure. All right, guys. So that's it. Have a good one.
All right, peace.
Goodbye.
Bye.